Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. My name is Caitlin. Before we get started, I do want to address a couple things. Number one, you may have noticed that the name of my channel is Reading with Marie, and I go by Caitlin. That's because Marie is my middle name, so in case you were a little confused, it's just because Reading with Marie sounds better. I don't know why it was confusing to people, but it was. Number two, a couple people have said that I should do some in-depth book reviews of like specific books. Those are on the way. Those are coming. But today we are talking about literary dads. That's right, because it is coming up on Father's Day. I decided that we should talk about some tropes when it comes to writing dads in YA fiction. Okay, so number one on the list is the dad's dad. He is the one who tells terrible jokes. He's the one who taught you to drive. He coached your little league team. He's like a solid 10 out of 10 guy. But he's not typically very important. He's usually used as a background character, maybe as some comic relief. There are a couple of books that this dad is important. It's hard to think of examples because, again, he's very much a background character, but I would say there's a book called The How and the Why. I cannot remember the author, I'm sorry, but the dad in that book, I think, kind of exemplifies this archetype, but typically, he's not super important. Okay, so number two on the list is the mentor. Now, the mentor is not always the character's father, but typically, he is a very important person to this character. So, for example, I would say in the Harry Potter books, maybe Remus Lupin, I think, is a great example of this. Chiron and Percy Jackson is also a really good example. These characters usually are very wise. They sometimes are like friends of the character's dad, maybe. I don't know. I just think that's something I notice a lot. But they typically give great advice, and the character always comes to them in times of need. They're more important, I think, than the dad's dad, but they're still not a huge focus of the story. So next up on this list is the supervillain father. I think this character is really interesting. They're not always the father of the protagonist, but usually they have very, very high expectations of their child. Think like Lucius Malfoy from Harry Potter. They fight for the evil side, so they cause their child a lot of angst, usually. They try and push them to fight with them and to join their cause. And they a lot of times can be the motivation for their character to maybe fight for the good side if they don't agree with their father, or they can be the character's downfall and cause them to, I guess, join the dark side. Okay, so number four is the martyr. The martyr is typically the hero's motivation, always. In my opinion, I think that the martyr is always a lot of the character's motivation. The character may not have ever known their father, but he usually died for a cause. Think James Potter and Harry Potter. Is thought to be very noble. Sometimes the character will find out the truth about them and it disappoints them. They don't live up to their expectations, but typically the martyr is used to motivate the protagonist. Okay, so number five on the list is the king. I don't know if you've ever noticed, but in a lot of like high fantasy books, the protagonist is often a prince or a princess and their dad is the king. And the dad usually has incredibly high expectations of them, but pays absolutely no attention to them. Like at all. Or they often, again, serve as motivation for the character, so the character doesn't want to disappoint them, or the character doesn't agree with them, and so they run away, or they, fight against the monarchy and rebel. But oftentimes, the king as a father is used more so than like the dad's dad. He's more of an important character, but he doesn't show up as much and is more used as like motivation and backstory for the character instead of as a character. Okay, so next up on the list is the best friend. Now, the best friend can have a lot in common with like the dad's dad, can also have a lot in common with the mentor. He's kind of a mix of both. He's usually very fun-loving, very young at heart, but he doesn't always serve as the greatest father. Think maybe Sirius Black in Harry Potter. Harry really wants him to be a father figure, but he doesn't always live up to that expectation. They definitely can serve as a confidant for the character, and sometimes they give advice, but typically they're just there to be friends. A lot of times they also disagree with the character's mom. A lot of times, like when the character has conflict with their mom, the author will have their father be like the contrast to that. And so I think that's also a really interesting way of using that character. Okay, last on the list is the absentee. I think that in young adult fiction, fathers can be absent for a multitude of reasons. They may be fighting for a cause, like in Little Women, the dad is gone because he's fighting in the Civil War. They might have some important job to do other than a war, like in Percy Jackson, Poseidon is a god, so he has other things to worry about. They might be dead. They might have gone missing mysteriously. There are a lot of different reasons that fathers may be absent in books. I think, though, the main reason, in my mind, is that authors don't like writing about them. Because it can be really tricky to write about a character's parents, especially if you want that character to be really independent and they're a teenager. It's kind of hard to write an independent teenager who has parents that watch them and, like, care about them. So I think authors will a lot of times have the dad be missing or dead or not important in the story so that the character has more agency to, like, run away or go places. But in general, I think that it's really hard to lump all absent fathers in young adult books into one category because some of them are gone for a good reason. Some of them, again, are fighting in wars, or they went missing, or they were, like, I don't know, killed by some thieves or something. There are a multitude of reasons why they may have gone missing. Or they could be gone because they left, which is depressing. But I think absent fathers are used a lot in young adult books, and I think it's a really interesting thing to explore because they're not all gone for the same reason. Hey guys, I hope you all enjoyed this video. Don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have any more examples of literary dads or dads in young adult fiction, don't forget to let me know in the comments. I know that most of my examples were from Harry Potter. I think that's number 1 because I'm a huge Potterhead, and number 2 because it kind of has a character for everything. July is actually Harry Potter month on this channel, so don't forget to look forward to those videos. Thanks you all for watching, and I'll see you next time.